All right, today is the final lecture for IS 430 in the spring semester 2020. And I wanted to give a very brief introduction to the final lecture, which is a video lecture, a talk from Adam Shostak on threat modeling, and then give you some more information about the final exam and the final format that it will take. First, some information on the final lecture. I think if there was one topic that we could add to the textbook that would have a little bit more work thrown at it, a little bit more coverage in this class, it would be threat modeling. And there are a variety of reasons for this, but the main one is that it is one of the most versatile tools that you can use for examining the information security and privacy concerns that you may have, both for an organization or for an information system. It's really crucial if you're trying to do any kind of prioritization or comparison or analysis to figure out where your weak spots are and whether or not it is worth investing to fix some of them. Or more importantly, what kind of approach you would want to use to mitigate some of the threats that you may be facing. I think Adam Shostak's book is basically the definitive book on threat modeling. It's a little expensive if you're just buying it straight off of Amazon, but it has been used as a textbook in some classes, and so you may be able to get a relatively inexpensive version if you are looking for used copies. It's a little bit, I don't know, I don't think it's old in the sense that it's dated, but it's a little bit older now. I think it's 4 or 5 years old, and you may be able to find a couple of relatively good used copies. I'll note that it doesn't really cover privacy threat modeling, although in the years since it was published, an independent research group has kind of adapted the approach that he takes to security threat modeling for privacy and created something called the Lin Dunn model, which I think is excellent. I've used it in some research projects myself. And there's lots of good documentation on how to apply it. Certainly, if you read the book, you will understand the uses of threat modeling. I hope the lecture gives you a little bit of a sense as to the sorts of things that you can do with threat modeling. It's definitely the kind of thing that you would be you'll get a lot out of it. I really enjoy his talks. I think he covers material in a way that's very accessible, and you won't really, certainly after having gone through this course, you'll have a very good understanding of what he's talking about. It's very accessible. So I'll link the video in the description for this and also on Blackboard, so you'll be able to access it. That's the video that's required watching for material for this class. It may be covered on the final exam. Speaking of which, let's move into the final exam. So we're going to be doing a take-home final exam, and I've really thought quite a lot about how to do this and what would be the fairest, most appropriate way of doing it. I don't want to do something that would require more than 2 hours worth of effort. So the estimated effort for this final exam is going to be about 2 hours of time. It may actually be a lot less than that, depending upon how well prepared you are in advance. But that's sort of my estimated amount of time that you should be spending on this. I say this for those of you who are like super type A individuals. Don't spend 5, 6, 7, 8 hours on this. It really is just going to be a waste of your time. And I'm not going to be able to grade all of the stuff that you would do over the course of a 5-hour exam anyhow. It's just impossible. It may actually make it harder for me to grade because if you have something that intricate, I'm not entirely sure how I would approach the grading process. But I also recognize that scheduling a 2-hour exam for the same time slot that we had previously is a little bit awkward for some of you who are no longer in your dorms, no longer in a place where it may be easy for you to do that. So I wanted to give the flexibility of a take-home assignment anyhow. And if I were to do something in something like the Respondus Lockdown browser, I wouldn't necessarily be able to detect any sort of cheating anyhow, so I might as well make the exam designed from the very beginning to be a take-home thing that everyone would have access to. Obviously, I don't want you working with other people. This should be your own individual effort for the final exam, so don't collaborate with folks. I'll be using SafeAssign on the submission side to try and detect plagiarism. More importantly, if there is any similarity between some of the solutions, it's the kind of thing that can cause problems because the questions are designed to be pretty open-ended questions. So there are some study materials that are available on Blackboard now, basically the final exam and midterm from previous semesters. And really only the create and analyze sections of those previous final exams are relevant. I'm not going to be asking any true-false questions. I'm not going to be asking any multiple choice questions. And there will be relatively few short answer questions, all of which will sort of fall into the same style as the create and analyze sections that you would see at the ends of those two exams. It will be a little bit longer than what you would see in the create and analyze section, probably 6 questions rather than 4 when all is said and done for the final exam. But that's it. I'm not really expecting all that much more. The final exams in the previous semesters really were designed for about a 2-hour time period. Most people finished around the 90-minute block, and I'm not really expecting this to be that much more effort. So again, focus on preparing, but don't over prepare in the sense that when you finally get to the exam, you can just spew out hours upon hours of material for this. It's really not intended for that sort of thing. So that's all of the material I have on the final exam. If you have questions, please come and see me in the office hours. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the video from Adam Shostak. It's a very popular topic, and he gives talks at tons of conferences all over the place. I think threat modeling is certainly here to stay for information security professionals.